Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Sonia, also known as SG from Let the Lady Speak podcast, where we have healthy discussions about life, love, dating, and relationships while promoting self-love and healing. Here on my YouTube channel, I sometimes analyze the behavior of castmates of certain reality shows that talks about dating or deals with dating and relationships. Today I'm going to talk about emotional abuse, and the person that I'm going to use as an example and or analyze is Gil. Now, Gil is a cast member of Married at First Sight season 13, and I know a lot of people love Gil. I am not bashing Gil. This isn't personal. I don't know him. But I do want to talk about his behavior and how his behavior displays a person that is emotionally abusive. Emotional abuse is something that flies under the radar until it becomes outright verbal and then physical. A lot of people don't catch the signs right away. A lot of abusers are very either charismatic, likable, they smile a lot. They just come across in a friendly manner in a way you won't think that that's who they are. However, as time goes on and the mask comes off, you get to see the real person. We see this behavior a lot with narcissists. During the love bombing and grooming phase, they don't appear to really be an abusive personality, right? You don't have time to think about it, and they're so loving and charismatic, and you just don't see them as that kind of person. Ted Bundy, who is a serial killer, got away with so much because people said he looked good, he was charismatic, and he was smart. So no one ever believed that he was an actual serial killer. And so that's why I feel like this message is important. I am not tearing down Gil. I don't know Gil. This isn't personal, but I do want to talk about his behavior. But first and foremost, I want to welcome you to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. If you are a new subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. I appreciate you guys being here, just hanging out with me. Thank you so much. If you like the content, please subscribe. Hit the like button, and I really appreciate and love when you guys comment below. So please comment below and let me know your thoughts. Also, I want to say, let's keep this respectful for the Gil fans. I have seen his fans in other YouTube comments and on social media really being rude and nasty. This video is for education purposes only. I don't know Gil. This isn't anything personal towards him, but as a medical professional and a woman who has seen a lot of abuse growing up and a person who studies psychology, including forensic psychology, I really just want to inform people of behaviors to be aware of. I am not attacking this person personally, so I just want to make that known. Also, at the end, I'm going to talk about ways that you can kind of protect yourself from emotional abuse. Okay, so let's get into tonight's episode. Okay, so as I stated, the purpose of this video is for educational purposes only. I am not diagnosing anyone. I am speaking purely to behavior. Okay, so full disclaimer, my notes are down here, so I'll be looking down. I feel like the couples were mismatched, and because the couples were mismatched, a lot of a person's bad traits and or defense mechanisms came out to play, and it didn't look good for them. But I'm hoping that this is a learning experience. I'm happy to know that Johnny, Gil, and I think Jose has gotten therapy, and Michaela. And so I hope that some other cast members get therapy as well. Abusive behavior is usually rooted in fear and or anxiety, and is usually related to something that's unresolved, unhealed, or unrecognizable. It's ultimately about control, right? It's either I want to control you from leaving me. If there's abandonment issues there, they don't want a person to leave, so they try to control them to make them stay. Or there's abandonment issues there, and they're trying to push the person away so they don't feel like they have no control over when you leave, or they just want something from you. And I say that because not everyone displays abusive behavior because they are a bad person. Some people have been doing this for years because it's how they grew up. They grew up being abusive. That's why a lot of people don't recognize abuse too, because it's their norm in their environment, right? So you have that component. Then you also have the component that this is how I have defended myself. I have protected myself by acting this way, by pushing you away, by being loud or aggressive or assertive unnecessarily, or whatever the case may be. It is to push you away because I have to know that I am in control of this situation, so I don't feel the hurt and pain of being left alone or abused again. And that leading to my next statement, some people grew up abused and they're just used to abusive behavior. They don't know how to function outside the norm. It all boils down to needing to tap into those places where there are open wounds and traumas and dealing with it. People with abandonment issues, PTSD, and victims of abuse are oftentimes abusers. Okay. And you guys can Google this. You can look it up. I'm not just talking. This is actual factual information. You can look it up to determine, which I actually should suggest. Okay. So let's define emotional abuse, because again, once you know, knowledge is power, right? So what is emotional abuse? And this is from safehorizon.org. Okay. Emotional abuse involves non-physical behavior that belittles another person and can include insults, put downs, verbal threats, or other tactics that the victim feels threatened, inferior, ashamed, and degraded. Some of the signs of emotional abuse include insulting, demeaning, or shaming, especially in front of others. They are hypercritical or judgmental towards their victim. They use sarcasm, including teasing and or jokes and backhanded compliments. They treat their victims like a child. So let's talk about let's use Gil's words. Let's talk about what he did and how he acted towards Mirla. Now, you can say that she was bougie or she was the diva, and Mirla is very self-aware. Where the problem comes in is the intent behind the verbiage. What was Gil's intent behind all of the berating? I'm going to use berating because that's what he was doing. Behind his berating of Mirla, right? And just the blatant disrespect. Because if we're going to be honest, guys, he was blatantly disrespectful starting from the honeymoon. So let's get started. On the honeymoon, he says she has tantrums. He said he treats her like a child. He said he tolerates her. He said he feeds her and just let her tires herself out. He called her high maintenance. He drew her face on the volleyball that they played and said, "This is my wife's stunt double. She had a good time. She got tossed around a little bit," and he laughed. He calls her bougie. This was throughout the series. He started calling her bougie all the time. He called her a brat all the time. He said that she was an old lady in a jersey when she was so proud that she could still fit her high school jersey. He called her the old lady in a jersey. He said you forgot where you came from, when she was trying to explain how where she came from molded her to be a more motivated person to be successful. He constantly talked down to her. One time they were working out. There was a clip of them working out, and he said we have about an hour to go, and she said something about like a little more than an hour or something like that. And he said, "I said an hour," and then he looked at the camera. He said, "You see what I have to deal with, people?" And there was no smile or no kindness. Like there was no joking about what he was saying to her and just how he talked to her. He would talk down to her. Like I said, he asked her if she was made of gold. And then when they went skating, she's like, "Are you going to let me fall?" And he said, "No, I'm not going to touch you." Like he didn't say, "No, baby, I'm going to let you fall," or "No, I got you, hold on to me," like he normally wants her to hold on to him. He said, "I'm not going to touch you," And there are like other examples of a lot of what he did that was verbally abusive. Yes, Marilla said that she was bougie and she was a diva. Again, she's self-aware, but that doesn't excuse his behavior or his intent. And his behavior started to escalate, I say about episode 13. I think that's when they were intimate. I think that was after the the martinis. And you can really see like his smile, his mask went away. He stopped smiling as much and he would just give her this blank stare. And in my opinion, he would give her like a look of disdain. Like he really just didn't like her. Which again, if you don't like her, that's fine. Just leave her alone though, you know? So let's get into some more signs of emotional abuse. Having an opinion about everything you say, do, or think. We know that he didn't like how she spent her money. Although she was financially stable and responsible, he still talked badly about her. Like, let's put it in context. This lady has been working. She has been working hard. Her mother, this is what really upset me, is like her mother also sacrificed a lot for her and her siblings to make it to where they are. And for people to just act like that's nothing, that is so disturbing to me, you know? But they sacrificed a lot for her to be where she is. And so now where she is, she has property, she has a savings, she has a retirement, and she saves. She shops 3 times a year. She cooks 3 times a day, 6 days out of the week. She wants one date night, well, one brunch, and then 2 date nights a month. I don't feel like that's unreasonable, right? But if it isn't his thing, it's not his thing. And that's okay for it not to be his thing. It's not her thing to want to live in a box. He said he could live in a box. He can live anywhere. Money doesn't drive him. That's not his thing, but it's her thing. But he made it seem like it was so terrible for her to want a better life or a good life for herself. And really, besides what I named, she wanted to travel. Like, those are the things she wanted. She wants to date her husband, she wants to travel, and she wants to shop 3 times a year. So ignoring boundaries. He ignored boundaries very early on. She said, I don't want to kiss or become intimate until we have a friendship and a foundation. She really wanted to get to know who he was as a person, which is good and is healthy. I know they are married at first sight, but you don't know these people, right? And not to mention the fact that Pastor Kyle was on a show and he said that they don't STD test them. You can get herpes in the mouth, right? I don't know enough about you to kiss you and have sex with you right away. There are some people that do that, no judgment, but it's not her thing, and she set those clear boundaries up front. So what did he do? He tried to give her a foot massage at the end of the night on their wedding night, and she said no. And here's the thing, ladies and fellas, let's just keep it real. That's the equivalent of, let me just put the tip in. It's like, let me just start something and hope it goes somewhere. You know, she said he agreed that he was going to respect her boundaries, but then he started to push her boundaries, which is disrespectful too. He kept talking about how she won't give him a kiss. He said that he was going to divorce her if she didn't give him a kiss, which is his right. You know, it's his right. If he needs physical touch to feel loved, that's within his rights. But my point is, you said you were going to respect these things about me, and now you've changed your mind and you're pushing the envelope. And I honestly think he felt left out. I think he felt like everybody else was doing it. Why can't I do it? Now, I'm going to say this, and I know this is going to be unpopular, but I found Gil to be dishonest and extremely immature. Those are just my thoughts. And again, he tried to be very controlling with her money and how she spent her money. Another sign of emotional abuse is manipulative behavior. Projecting. He projected a lot of his insecurities onto her. Gaslighting. I don't think he was a gaslighter. I think the production was, though. I think the experts were, because they just made it seem like she was crazy because she said, this is the life I wanted to live. I'm not compromising on that. We all have non-negotiables. No one should negotiate on their non-negotiable. Whether you agree with someone's non-negotiable or not, it's theirs and they have a right to it. Just like you have a right to yours. If you have to have a Christian man, no one should tell you, oh, you have to date a Muslim. What's wrong with you? Why won't you date a Muslim? You're a Christian. You want a Christian man. Like, we have a right to what we want. And again, it's not her fault that you guys hooked her up with someone who didn't meet her non-negotiable. So I don't like the fact that they demonized her for that. Passive aggressive behavior, and he was definitely passive aggressive. Another thing is disregarding her feelings. That is another sign of emotional abuse. And how did he do so? When she was talking about her childhood, he was just kind of like, he had no empathy. He had no understanding towards what happened. You know what I mean? And when she said we lived in this one room house and we had to make all these sacrifices and everything she had to do to go to school. And she said, now, do you understand why I want to live in a high rise? And he's like, that's not a reason. But let's be real. How many of our entertainers wear a whole bunch of jewelry and buy all these cars because they grew up poor and now they want nice things, right? Like, it doesn't make you a bad person. Again, they were mismatched, though. They were really mismatched. Another way I felt like he lacked empathy, understanding, or even had any compassion for her is every time she talked, he would overtalk her. He would just, he would either overtalk her, he would cut her off. He just completely disregarded anything that she would have to say, And he just never offered any validation for her feelings. I think he only checked in one time, and that was when they went horseback riding, and he called her a brat again, and he was just kind of like, is that okay? Is it okay that I say that? And she shook her head. And let me say this, I'm going to talk about it in my Marilla video. I do think she should have spoke up more. I'm not saying that she was perfect through this process, but I am saying he was showing signs of emotional abuse. So for me, over time, like I said, he began to escalate. He began to get shorter with her. He never affirmed her. And even like he never would give her credit for anything that she did do. He never came forth like, her and Hype are friends now. Not in a joyous way. He was talking to his friend. He's like, you can't believe this girl want a dog now. It's just, he talked about her as though she wasn't important to him. And I don't know how anybody can look at someone treating a person like this and feel like they deserve it because they like nice things and they complain about not having almond milk. I don't know how that's okay when a husband is supposed to be a protector, when he left her naked all the time. He left her uncovered. Because when you make it okay to make fun of your partner in front of other people, you say that it's okay for you to disrespect my partner, right? So that's a big issue that I have. So if you experience this kind of behavior, it's best to just nip it in the bud and let them know what is acceptable, how things make you feel, and how you would prefer for conversations to go. And if they don't respect that, then you have decisions to make. So let's talk about some other steps that can help you learn to understand what emotional abuse is. Learn what emotional abuse, verbal abuse, gaslighting, learn all of those psychology techniques. I'm telling you, people read up on these things just to hurt people, just to manipulate people. Some people learn from their environment and upbringing. So always know what things are. When you know what they are, you're not confused by what's happening. You know exactly what's happening and you know what you're seeing. Don't blame yourself. It's the abuser's issue. It's not yours. And it doesn't always mean that they are a bad person. Not everyone is abusing people to hurt people. Some people are abusing people to protect themselves. This is how they've learned to operate in the world. This is how they learn to protect themselves. Okay, so don't blame yourself. Don't engage. A lot of people were upset that Murilla didn't engage Gil and seemed to be very cold, they said, on the stage. No, he wanted to argue with her and she just wasn't going to give it to him. And you don't. Once you allow someone to control your emotions, then they control you. And once they have that control over you, they'll provoke you, and there'll be unnecessary arguments, unnecessary name calling. Like, there's no reason for it. You can tell that something else happened. You can tell that there's been something else behind the scenes. We just don't know what it is. But what I will say is never, ever, ever engage. If you got to disassociate, disassociate. Don't try to prove them wrong and prove yourself right. It's best to just disassociate. They're usually looking for a reaction when they do that. So be very careful. Stay in control of your emotions. Think logically. What is actually happening here? Can I do anything about it and move forward? Don't get into a verbal tussle with anyone over things you know to be factual, right? Because usually it won't fare well, especially if you're a person that really gets upset, because then people can't hear you, Just like with Johnny and Bao. Johnny's been telling the truth the whole time about Bao, but no one could hear him because he was acting out. Another way you can protect yourself from being emotionally abused is set boundaries and be consistent with your boundaries and give consequences and stick to your consequences, right? So if the boundary is you can't call me this name, or I'm not going to speak to you, if they call you that name, then you don't speak to them. So make sure whatever the consequence is something that you can follow through with, because once you break that, they'll continue to run all over you and break your boundaries. Speak up for yourself. Be clear, be honest, be concise, but speak up for yourself always. And lastly, if you have been in an abusive relationship, whether that's physical, financial, emotional, verbal, narcissistic, whatever the case may be, if you have endured those things, then get some help. Emotional abuse especially can really have some long-lasting effects and impact on you as a person, because it tears away at your self-esteem. It makes you question yourself slowly, and you become dependent on that person's opinion and their thoughts, or you get to the point where you just don't want to argue or fight, so you don't stand up for yourself, and you don't defend yourself when you should, because you're so exhausted and you know that it's just going to become a big ordeal, right? So just get the help that you need so you can get the tools that you need so that you can protect yourself, okay? Now, at the end of the day, like I said, I just don't believe that they were matched correctly. That's just how I feel. I do believe, though, that he has some issues. I am happy that he is in therapy. I do not think that therapy is because they broke up necessarily. I think that therapy is because there's something else going on. Abandonment issues and PTSD can cause a person to have abusive behavior. So I just want to leave that note there. I hope you like the content. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, leave them in the description box below. Check out my actual podcast on all podcast platforms, and I will see you guys next time. Please don't forget to love you for who you are. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.